I've been using this guidebook, Britain's Pilgrim Places, like a treasure map. It's honestly a bit like geocaching for pilgrims. Wherever you are in the UK, you'll find little known sacred spots that are tucked into cliffs, fields, woodlands, or old churchyards. And they're often places that you would drive straight past without actually knowing that they're there. One day, I took this book with me to the far west corner of Cornwall, one of the most beautiful and ancient parts of this country, to see what I could find. I started in the village of St Just. This is the southwest of England, right at the bottom, and I am right down here near Land's End, and you can see that there's a cluster of places to visit. Let's see how many of these sites I can tick off in a few hours. It's also going to get me out and walking and out along the coastal path, which is one of my favourite places to be. I left my car in the St Just car park, found the sign to Cape Cornwall and followed the road down towards the coast. I'm really glad I decided to walk this because it's about a mile and a bit down a track that you can drive down, but it's quite narrow and there's been quite a lot of traffic coming down here. I think most people probably drive to the end and then take a look out at the Cape. Amazing house here. I guess they've normally got a view out to sea. I'm just walking down to the car park at the Cape now, but the visibility is very poor. I can't even see the sea. As I reached the Cape, the mist cleared enough to see the incredible views, and I spotted the first pilgrim treasure of the day. Cape Cornwall is one of only 2 capes in the UK, the other being Cape Wrath in the northwest of Scotland. St Helen's Oratory is an old Christian chapel which is believed to date back to Roman times. After looking around, I followed the coast path up onto the headland. I was just speaking to a southwest coast path walker, trying to get the lowdown. I was trying to find out about the camping and accommodation and things like that. I would love to do this one day. The Southwest Coast Path is a 630-mile national trail, and it's a dream of mine to complete it. I'm excited. I haven't walked this entire trail yet. It's something I plan to do. I'm just walking a little bit of it now, and it is absolutely stunning. On the cliff ahead of me, I believe that's an old tin mine. If you've read Poldark or seen it, you'll know about tin mining in Cornwall. The classic lunch for a tin miner was, we call them Cornish pasties, but they're pasties, and it's got this pastry at the edge so they could hold on to it with their mucky hands and eat their lunch underground while they were down the tin mine. So I've got my Cornish pasty, it's still warm. I bought it in St Just, and I'm just sat on this granite bench with an incredible view. But I had more pilgrim treasures to find, so I retraced my steps back to St Just. The next treasure was located inside the parish church. The Selus stone is the gravestone of St Levan, or St Levan, who was the brother of St Just, and he may also have been one of the early kings of Cornwall. The gravestone features a Latin inscription and a Cairo cross, and it dates back to the late 5th or early 6th century. There was also an interesting painting on the wall of the church dating back to the early 15th century. After visiting the Selus stone in the quiet church at St Just, I headed back to my car to find Paul's Chapel on the south coast. That took me longer than I thought, and I've been contemplating as I've been walking. This is not about trying to see as many places as possible in a short time scale. It's what the Camino and other long walks have taught me. It's actually being in the moment and enjoying it. I'm going to move on. I'm going to find another place to head to now. Oh, and I got myself an oat milk latte in a lovely independent coffee shop and cafe. They had amazing cakes, but I resisted. While I was heading to Paul's Chapel, I kept spotting signs for Land's End, and I was so close, and I thought, I've come all this way down the country, why not visit it? I hadn't actually been there since I was 10, and let's just say it wasn't exactly how I remembered it. To park for 30 minutes just to go and see it, it was £8, which did seem a little bit steep to me. And I was shocked because you walk through this almost Disney-like plaza full of shops, attractions, and that had not been there when I visited the first time. You then reached the themed photo opportunity, and to be fair, I do remember as a child getting my picture taken there with my family. So it did seem a little bit commercialized, a little bit like a theme park perched on the edge of something beautiful and wild. But this is the thing, once you go through that, you actually get onto the cliffs, and it is breathtaking. You've got the sea below, you've got the wind in your face, and you can see why people have stood at this edge of the world for generations. Still, after visiting Cape Cornwall earlier, that did feel a little bit more wild and less polished and more real, and that's what I was craving on this little pilgrimage adventure. So from here, I headed down to Paul's Chapel to visit St Levan's church and his nearby holy well. This was the same saint that I'd just come across earlier at St Just. When I got to St Levan's churchyard, it was really peaceful, obviously full of sea air. Outside, there was this large split boulder known as St Levan's stone, and beside it, there was a rounded Celtic cross. And in the church guidebook, it does actually say that the cross may have been placed there to counterbalance the rock's, let's just say, feminine power. But there's also an old legend that the boulder was split by the saint himself, and that the world will end when a pack horse can pass between the two halves. So perhaps it's best not to try. The Holy Well is a little walk from the church just above one of Cornwall's most beautiful coves. Wow. You'll find it tucked into the hillside, and it is like a ruined stone structure now, and half of it is kind of lost to time, but you can still very much see it. And it's thought that people may have bathed in one half and slept in the other as part of a healing ritual. And to be honest, I'm not really sure how they would fit in the sleeping half. There's just not really enough room. The water still trickles through, and apparently today the church still used this water for their baptisms. I think it was blessed by St Levan. Got my book with me, even though it's heavy. And his sign, there was a little sculpture of him behind the pulpit in the church actually, is a hook with 3 fish on it, because apparently he caught miraculously 3 fish on one hook just before some people came for dinner one day. I went back to my car, and my final stop of the day took me inland to one of Cornwall's most remarkable gems, Euny, which is an ancient Bronze Age village that's kind of lost to time. I was technically on a mission to find St Euny's well, which is a holy spring said to have been used for baptisms as early as the 5th century. But to get there, you first have to go through this extraordinary place. I'm going on an adventure. Well, I am on an adventure. Through another field. Euny, ancient village. It says here it was occupied from the Iron Age until late Roman times, and it's one of the best preserved ancient villages in southwest Britain. The foundations of the stone houses that are visible today date from the 2nd to 4th century AD. And the village was abandoned around the time of the Roman occupation of Britain. Oh, when that came to an end. Wow, these were people's houses. I'm not actually here for this, but this is so interesting. This is crazy. I think I'm inside an old house. The sign actually explains the underground chamber, but they don't really know why it was there. Oh, and it does say, along the path behind you is an ancient well. That's where I'm going. I'm looking for a path in the hedge by an information panel, so this looks like it here. Watch my footing. Gosh, it's like a jungle. There's even bamboo. I'm not sure how far down here the well is. I think this is the remains of an ancient well. It's not the one I'm looking for, but in the book it talks about there being 2 ancient wells here, but in the guidebook, the person that wrote it could only find one. They did mention some rocks behind a tree, but that looks like steps going down to an immersion chamber to me. But let's head out and look for the main St. Euny's well. That's where I've just come from. I couldn't see an old chapel. The St. Euny's well way. Is that a walk? That sounds like a pilgrimage route to me. I'll have to look that one up. The directions in the book did feel to me at this point a little bit more like suggestions, because I got quite lost. I realised as I was wandering off down the path that I had walked for quite some time, and really it kind of felt like in the book it wasn't that far. So I retraced my steps and eventually I did find the well just off the main path. Oh my goodness, I walked past it earlier, but it wasn't obvious at all. So there's a little stream flowing down here and it goes down into this chamber here. This is the well. Wow, I found it. There we go. St. Euny's well. That was difficult to find, but I'm so glad that I did. I think the water comes out here. This is the spring. I don't know if this is part of an old well as well. And, oh, there's my foot. Goes around there and into the chamber here. And this is where the steps go down. So I think this was like a baptismal chamber. It's quite shallow. And I guess St. Euny used to baptise people here. I don't really know. But I'm glad I found it. Just past the well was an old tree. If you know why people tie ribbons on ancient trees in places like this, please let me know why in the comments, because I really don't know. It is small, it's simple, but it is really special. There's something amazing about stepping into this woodland glade and finding an ancient holy well, and it's been a sacred site for over 1500 years. This has another legend attached to it, so apparently anyone that is baptised in this well will never hang. That does sound a little bit grim, and hopefully it's never been tested. It is a few steps away from the path and you'd never find it if you didn't know it was there. And that's the kind of magic of these pilgrim places, tucked away, quiet, waiting to be found. I challenge you to go and find some, it's fun.